Welcome into Rover Sports here, and I'm joined by a very special guest, my buddy Jetscentral. And man, it's been a whirlwind these last couple of weeks, man. I just want you to talk a little bit about, just channel growth right now, and then of course we're going to get into Josh Rosen and everything to do with the trade up to 3. But just talk about NFL free agency, how much fun it's been for your YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's been great. I've been trying to pretty much just do a video on a lot of the big name free agent signings, and of course, like all things New York Jets. It's been great to interact with fans of football all across the country, all across the world, and it's just been great. Seeing the teams kind of just plug the holes or kind of fill the needs on their roster. And overall, I mean, this has definitely been probably one of my favorite free agency periods. I would say ever. So I've had a blast.
Yeah, I wanted to, before we get into Josh Rosen, since we have you here, what teams did you like in free agency? Who were some winners? Who do you think needed more help and didn't get that help? I mean, which teams did you like the moves of?
I would say the number one team that I feel like stands out to me is Cleveland. I think they did a really, really nice job of acquiring talent, upgrading at every single position across the board. You look at Tyrod Taylor, you bring him in the building, they have enough money to pay him. He's going to be the starter day one, and it gives you kind of like the leash or the leadway to your fans, there's not that pressure to start the rookie quarterback or the potential first overall draft pick. Jarvis Landry is a stud, getting him in the building. I really like what the Cleveland Browns did. Who's your favorite?
My favorite actually is I didn't mind what Tennessee did, like Malcolm Butler, Dion Lewis. So I thought that they did a really nice job in free agency getting their guys. And then you look at Green Bay, they were certainly – I would have kept Jordy Nelson, but for them they get Jimmy Graham, so they were fairly aggressive. I'm trying to think of the other I actually – Chicago, that's a big one.
Yeah, Bears,
exactly. Allen Robinson, but then the most underrated free agent signing, and I should even do a video about this, is I think Chase Daniel. I think that's huge for Mitchell Trubisky. Trey Burton, they're really accompanying this guy.
Yeah, I'm so pumped up to see Mitchell's growth as a quarterback. Offensive head coach coming in the building, help him kind of come along. You give him a number one wide receiver in Allen Robinson. I know we're forgetting what Taylor Gabriel they signed as well?
Yes, they did, the Bears, yes.
Yeah, so they're upgrading at tight end, they're upgrading at wide receiver. Like I said, they're getting an offensive-minded head coach in the building. I love it.
Yeah, I'm trying to like with free agency though, it is really like all optimistic when you look at these players because they all have talent, and then you do have to evaluate like who didn't do a lot in free agency or like who would have lost. That's even a tougher question because you can always look positively. We can always look at Honey Badger to Houston. We can look at the Giants and Nate Solder. We can look at all these teams. I believe like the Niners, I have them on my channel. They get Richard Sherman. They don't hit on Tremaine Johnson. Do you think that the Niners were a little bit disappointing? Do you think the Cowboys not doing anything is disappointing? I mean, what teams did you not like? Did you not like Kansas City, giving up a lot of players? What do you think?
Right. I would say the first team that kind of stands out to me, you just mentioned it, the Dallas Cowboys. They didn't do anything to kind of help this roster. Now, I know they didn't really, it wasn't like they had like $100 million to spend or anything like that, but I don't even think they targeted one free agent. I mean, I actually know right now Alan Hearns is on his way to Dallas to go set up a meeting, but right now they didn't really do much or anything pretty much. And then the Miami Dolphins, you lost talent all across the board. Ndamukong Suh, Jarvis Landry, Pouncey is another guy that I feel like they're going to miss. So the Miami Dolphins, I thought, had a really, really tough free agency period.
I actually am glad that we could genuinely disagree about the Dolphins because I think that there's some teams that just need like a complete dump or car wash, so to speak. And I, an Adam Gase just wasn't getting along with guys like Landry and especially Ajay, those two didn't get along. So I don't mind the Dolphins reinventing themselves. They're so mediocre that if they just kept Sue, which is just – they just had a lot of dead money to me. So I'm kind of excited for the Dolphins. I think it's time to kind of tear it apart there. and they just had nothing going on. Like, I don't mind what they did, actually.
Yeah, I totally hear you, but I just feel like for Miami right now, you're just creating holes all across the roster, defensive line, wide receiver, offensive line, and stuff like that. I just feel like, with Tannehill on a big money deal, is it the smartest move? And potentially a head coach on the hot seat. If the Dolphins don't do well next season, will Gase be on the hot seat? I don't know.
Yeah, a team that is like very polarizing is really two teams. Like, there's the one most polarizing team is the Los Angeles Rams. For me, it's boom or bust. Peters and Talib are two big personalities. Peters can either be great. They let Watkins leave. Tavon Austin, supposedly they're bringing back. They've just been very active. Quinn and Ogletree are gone. What do you think about the Rams so far?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to say the least, what the LA Rams are doing, because you never really see in football, just like a guy just wheeling and dealing, like, okay, let's go get two new cornerbacks. Let's let one stud cornerback walk. Let's let Watkins go at the door. We tagged Joyner. I know they have interest in Sue too, so the LA Rams, they're trying to go for it all. I can't say I disagree with the idea of just saying, okay, we're upgrading at all these positions. I'm just saying, I think we just have to be a little bit wary, or just be a little cognizant of the personalities on the defense. We can't get too many personalities and like an attitude problem. We don't want the bad culture. We don't want the bad vibes or the lack of team chemistry, if you will.
Sure, and sometimes there's a reason that they're free agents, right? And I mean, they believe so strongly in Sean McVay and Wade Phillips that they could just kind of, just get the best out of these guys. And I mean, the Rams, I do enjoy now in free agency as a whole how teams are just much more aggressive than in the past. We just see everybody going out and making big moves, in this free agent period.
Yeah, totally hear you.
So we have Jetscentral on. You can follow his YouTube channel, which is Jetscentral. Now we're finally going to get to the meat of the conversation, to the topic. I always like to start off with an appetizer and then get deep. I mean, Saturday night, you mentioned in a tweet, I believe Saturday morning, it's St. Patrick's Day. Everything's going wild with St. Patrick's Day. And then, like, how'd you find out about the news? Who was the first source that you kind of saw about the trade? And what was your just instant reaction? And what ended up happening with you discovering the news?
Yeah, I actually I was sleeping, right? And I had my phone on silent. And for whatever reason, when I looked up, I looked at my phone real quick. I actually had like a million mentions on Twitter, and I had some text from Dalton or UCF Jaguar, and he was just like, you guys are locked into a quarterback. You traded up to 3. And it's funny because the other day, he texted me saying like, oh, we just traded with the Buffalo Bills, like, just playing a prank. And I believed him. And I thought he was doing it again. And then until I went on Twitter, I'm like, holy crap, we actually did it. So it was incredible. It was definitely mind blowing because you don't really see a trade like this early in the process. So I'm totally pumped up for it. I really can't wait to see what the Jets do.
So it was Twitter that really broke it, and UCF said you traded back to like 12 with Buffalo.
Well, he said that like a few weeks back, like just messing with me. And then when he texted me, the day of the trade, I thought he was just like trying to pull a prank on me again. But no, he was being serious.
Sure, and so the trade goes down. You're now you trade up to number 3, and do you think that the New York Jets contacted Cleveland and the Giants for the first 2 picks?
Yeah, I know they did. The Cleveland Browns just pretty much just said, no, we're not trading out. And then the Giants, I think they wanted a little bit too much. So I think they offered the Giants the same deal, and the Giants said no, and they obviously counter-offered. But they offered the second-round pick package.
In 2019.
In 2019, yeah. But, I see a lot of people out there complaining like, oh, we gave up so much. I mean, if you take a look at the history of the Jets' second-round picks, I mean, Jason Morrow didn't work out, Devin Smith, Christian Hackenberg, Vlad Dukas, Stephen Hill, Geno Smith. I mean, there's a ton of guys there that we just completely missed on. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that every second-round pick is going to be a bust, but I'm just saying it's pretty much like we've been without second-round picks the last few seasons, other than Marcus May. So
Right.
we didn't give up a first-round pick next season, which I'm totally happy about. We didn't fork over this whole entire draft, because I feel like that would have been a little detrimental to the team. As far as, acquiring talent and whatnot. But, overall, I like the trade. I mean, and one of the picks that we gave to Indianapolis, we got from Sheldon Richardson, from Seattle. So it was like a free pick. So I'm totally pumped up for the trade, and I think I think it was okay.
I think that the Colts did a nice job, though, with that being said. I actually think it's a rare situation where they're going to get Quinn Nelson or Bradley Chubb. They're still at 6. I think they did a great job. They need players and picks.
Yeah, the one I feel like misconception about this whole trade is that it's why does there have to be one winner? Why does there have to be a loser? Why can't both teams win? The Jets are moving up, securing a quarterback for the future that he can now sit on the bench. Indianapolis has a lot of holes on the roster, acquiring more picks, moving down 3 slots to probably still get the guy that they wanted.
Sometimes I appreciate in interviews, if we're talking here at Jetscentral, I appreciate in interviews sometimes, the guest will say something that you just didn't even think about during the conversation. And I don't want to get away from Josh Rosen or anything, but I looked at Devin Smith and I thought that the guy's a home run hitter like a Deshaun Jackson. I guess he got hurt. But talk to us about Jason Morrow. I mean, this is a guy I loved out of Texas Tech. He's so mobile. He's so great for the modern NFL. He's in Tennessee now. Why do some of these guys just not pan out? Is it just not developing? Is it Devin being hurt? What's it with Devin and Jace? Why didn't those two work out for the Jets?
Well, with those two in particular, I guess we could throw Stephen Hill in that mix too, is drops. All 3 of those guys had major drop problems, multiple drops throughout the season. You just can't count on them. Third down, they're open, they drop the ball. And then number 2 is injuries. They can't stay on the field. They can't practice. They can't get better. They can't grow as players. So that's kind of, why they all kind of flamed out really quick. Jason Morrow didn't really have – well, actually, none of them really had any success with the team. I think Devin Smith had 1 touchdown.
Was Jace utilized down the field, though? Did he get a lot of targets?
No. He couldn't get open. He couldn't separate.
Why you gotta play the guys more,
Well, the wide receivers they played. They were lined up on the outside, especially Stephen Hill. I mean, Stephen Hill had a lot of time to develop. Jason Morrow, though, it's just the injuries. Whenever his number was called, he would drop the ball. Could never stay on the field. He wasn't reliable, so the Jets just parted ways with him.
It was like a pro-style offense at the time, right?
Yeah, and he hasn't really done much with Tennessee either. None of these guys have really done anything.
I'm hoping for the best. If Mariota could spread it out, they do have Walker there. So we'll have to see. He is undersized. He's not a traditional tight end. He just has to be utilized well. And I still think that there's upside. But, yeah, the injuries and certainly that might have factored in, the case. So now you're at number 3. And so the Giants – so isn't it interesting, JC, that the Browns – it appears like it's Sam Darnold, right? I mean, they're not giving up that pick. If they love a quarterback, it would just be such a risk to let Darnold sit out there, and not take him at 1, right? If you love a quarterback, you got to take a franchise guy. So the Giants, it appears that the Giants, I mean, they were willing to move on from 2, right? I mean, what do you think? You think the Giants are taking a quarterback, or do you think that the Giants now, with the information you're saying, that they would have moved? What do you think about that whole thing?
Here's the deal, okay? I like to play devil's advocate, a lot. If I was running the New York Giants, I would draft Josh Rosen and I would get rid of Eli Manning. I'm trading him to acquire picks. I know that's not the popular opinion, especially amongst the Giants fans. I'm sold on Josh Rosen. I think he'd be great in New York. I'm hoping, he falls to the Jets. But, if I was running the Giants, I'm taking Rosen. I'm starting him day 1. But what do I think the Giants are going to do? I think they're going to go with either Quentin Nelson or Saquon Barkley. I just feel like all the stars are aligning for Saquon. The Giants have a huge hole at running back. Saquon Barkley's the best player in the draft. they're not picking one. He's probably going to be there too. I mean, there's a chance Cleveland could take him, but I doubt it. He grew up like a fan. I mean, he grew up a fan of football. He's a great running back. He's a great pass catching back. He can block. He helps out on special teams. I think this is a home run home run draft pick for the New York Giants, and they just can't pass up on him. But if they do, I think you got to go after Quentin Nelson, a guy who is going to come in and just dominate from day one. I don't see Quentin Nelson struggling at the National Football level. I think he's strong enough. I think he's athletic enough to dominate. So if I was running, I would say Josh Rosen. But if what do I think is going to happen? I think it's going to be Barkley or Nelson.
Yeah. It's funny how like opposing fan bases, they don't have that attachment to Eli Manning. And, when Eli was younger though, he still like I think had a very good arm, like one of the best. Like I'm not going to say like an Aaron Rodgers 80 yards, but Eli would take big risks, throw it to Manningham and whatnot. And his arm strength is weaker, but during his younger days, his arm was really, really good, like a lot better than Rivers. And just from a pure throwing perspective, I look at the Giants and I just believe in Davis Webb. I want Webb to be the heir apparent. So I would take I still take Webb over Josh Rosen a little bit, like just from my preference in the Giants and my team. And but I look at for you guys, the New York Jets, it's such a different perspective. Like I was saying this on my show, and you could say whether you agree or not. I think Josh is the safest quarterback prospect that we've seen in a long time, and I can never imagine this guy being a backup. Like even Bradford has never been a backup, and I look at Josh, and he just seems like Matt Ryan prototype. Like he will never be a guy that's a backup, and it seems it's exactly what you need.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. A lot of people out there are saying that Sam Darnold is the safest pick. I would actually say he has the lowest floor. I feel like Darnold out of the four guys has the biggest bust. I guess I don't want to say percentage because it's not a percentage, but I just feel like he's the favorite to be the bust out of the four. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I think Josh Rosen is the safest. You look at him mechanically, I think he's the best out of the group. He has a strong arm. He's smart. He's accurate. He is great mechanics. I just think overall Josh Rosen is the best quarterback in this draft, and he's also the safest quarterback in this draft.
When you look at the quarterbacks, they always mention him second, and then they mention like about Rosen concussions, and some mention attitude. If you stand with Josh Rosen, what do you like about him the most as a quarterback? And what is it about Josh that would maybe give you the slightest pause?
I like a lot of stuff about Josh Rosen. I really do. I would say the number one thing I like about him is his, I would say, personality or kind of moxie to play in New York. I think he has thick skin. I think he's pretty much excelled at everything he's done at. He's was a great student. He was a great football player. He's great, he's obviously, kind of active in the communities and whatnot. He was a great tennis player. I just feel like everything Josh Rosen kind of does, he excels at or he does really, really well at. So I would say just his personality and just his like overall moxie, just him he's just a character. And I do like that. I would say my biggest, the thing that scares me the most is injury. I don't really look too much into the whole he doesn't love football. He doesn't really need it. I mean, hey, he got destroyed at UCLA. He got destroyed behind that O-line. If he doesn't need it, he wouldn't be going to the NFL draft. So I kind of put all that stuff to bed. But I would say the injuries, concussions and stuff.
Injuries, but you really think – I think that the guy, like, knows a lot about football. Like, he's cerebral,
Yeah, definitely smart. His mechanics are – like great. I like how he has experience in a pro style and a spread style offense. So I just think Josh Rosen's going to be a home run.
When you look at Baker Mayfield, like I get like this is an interview with you, so I kind of want to get your opinion here on Baker Mayfield. What do you think about like Baker Mayfield? What like is his ceiling just as high as Josh Rosen? What do you love about his game, and what gives you pause about Baker's game?
Right. I think one of the things I guess my favorite thing about Baker Mayfield is just the underdog mentality. Just I love football. If these teams weren't even paying us, he'd probably still go out there and be a quarterback. I like it because he's tough. He's kind of had to work his way literally from the bottom. Walked on twice, Texas Tech, Oklahoma. I just really like that. I like how he plays well in big moments. I think he's a big time player. Now, as far as ceilings, who has the higher ceiling, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield? I think Mayfield will have a similar career as like a Russell Wilson. If he goes to a better team, he might have more team success. Where I feel like Rosen might be more of like an Andrew Luck, where he's a stud, he's a better quarterback, but he has a hard time staying on the field, and he might not be going to the best team talent-wise. So Rosen, Luck, Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson. Of course, I'm not saying Baker's going to go win a Super Bowl, whatever, in 3 years, but I can see Baker Mayfield having a lot of team success early on.
Yeah, and now let's talk about our concerns with Baker Mayfield. He is a smaller person at 6 feet tall. When I look at his games, against Clemson, he was bad. Like in the Rose Bowl, he wasn't tremendous, in terms, and even against Georgia in the second half, he was slowed down. His deep ball is very good, but you just don't know if he can make like the second level throws as easy as Josh. He sometimes like improvises, overthinks, and can get out of the pocket too much. It's a shame. I love Baker's game though, but there is risk. He's so out on social media. He's so hard to rein in. There's a chance that he just goes completely – there is a small chance that he could go a little crazy, and he's not like a shoo-in like a Josh Rosen. You know what I'm saying? Like about Baker Mayfield, like what does give you those concerns where you're like Josh is just sturdier than Baker, What are those little concerns that you kind of would have?
Yeah, like I said, I like the whole underdog persona that Baker Mayfield kind of resembles or, gives off. But I think the one thing with Baker Mayfield that you have to take into consideration is he's like going to be out there on social media. He's like, I just don't want to see reports of him like getting into it with rival fans at a club or, causing a scene on, at 3 a.m., stuff like that. That's the stuff I worry about. I know a lot of people, have the Johnny Manziel comparisons and whatnot. I don't really think it goes that far. I don't think Baker Mayfield has love for the game problems. I don't think he's like on any drugs. I don't think he's battling any, mental illnesses or anything like that. But overall, I like Baker. I think he can be a really good NFL quarterback. It's just a few things kind of scare me. Is he going to get big-headed being in New York, especially if he has success early on, like Mark Sanchez?
Sure.
Can he play with not that much talent around him? Can he make other players better? Because Oklahoma had a better team than Wyoming, UCLA, and USC. I mean, his O-line was fantastic. The playmakers around him were fantastic. The defense was one of the top ones in the Big 12. And they had a great coach, too. So is Baker Mayfield big time, or is Baker Mayfield just a product of the defense, the playmakers, the system, the coach, and all this great stuff, having so much time to throw? So that's the question.
I think Josh Rosen can make second level throws kind of in his sleep. I think that Mayfield, at times, like his deep ball is good. When I look at him on the field, it's a little hard to come up with things I really don't like because I think Baker's going to be I think he's going to be tremendous. I think he could be a Hall of Fame talent. I think Josh Rosen, like it's so hard mechanically to tear apart. That's why with Josh Allen and Sam Darnold, I can mention things on the field that I don't like about those guys. That's why, you rank them lower. With Mayfield, I think he has a little bit of a problem going from like one side of the field maybe to the other side. And like you mentioned, it's RPO kind of stuff like we talked about. I won't – yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Just one quick thing. I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to throw one quick thing in there. I will say this, though. After watching a lot of Baker Mayfield and watching a lot of Sam Darnold, I think Mayfield's offense is more NFL ready or gives him more exposure to like NFL reads, NFL kind of like the route concepts and whatnot. I think Lincoln Riley's offensive system is much better than who's the Clay Helton's over there in USC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it's interesting, with Baker, and I think that Lincoln, certainly, Stoops a little bit. Bob Stoops, great coach too. What I really wanted to say to you is ask you this question, is that you're a Jets fan. You've mentioned before in your videos how you haven't had that guy. You haven't had that guy really your whole life, really since the Jets really haven't had that guy maybe since like Namath. I know you had Pennington and Sanchez era didn't happen at all. When you look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, he does have those concerns. When you look at Josh, it just seems like it seems much more stable. It seems like the guy's going to be locked in. To me, I don't know about Josh's ceiling, because Baker's ceiling I think is incredibly high, because he could turn around an entire like defense, and he's just a fun guy. Like, I think Baker can make the team just tremendous, but I look at Josh as safer. So do you take that into account, that you just need to get the guy in there already, and Josh is just such a shoo-in? Do you take that into account, the history?
Yeah, I feel like you got to. I'm a huge Josh Rosen fan. If the Jets were picking one, I would take Rosen. And to be sitting here at 3, and there's a decent chance that Rosen could fall to 3, I would be ecstatic, and I would be turning in the card for Josh Rosen. He'd be my number 1 guy.
I gotcha. So when we look at – I'm just going to hit just one more team here. The Denver Broncos have Case Keenum and the Buffalo Bills. Do you think both of those teams should draft quarterbacks? And what do you think about Josh Allen then as a prospect? And what do you think about Denver and Buffalo? What would you do if you were those two teams?
I think Buffalo needs to draft a quarterback. I think the moves that they've made, acquiring the draft picks, trading Tyrod Taylor, I think they have to go up and get a quarterback, whether it's trading up to 2 with the Giants, whether that's, coming up to 6 and getting the one that falls, trading up with the Indianapolis Colts. So Bills, I think it's a perfect situation for Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen. If the Jets picked him at 3, I would be fine with it. I really would. But if the Bills were to select him at 6 or even 5, if they traded up with Denver, I think that's a perfect situation for J.A. in Buffalo, because he could sit behind McCarron. He's kind of built for playing in that rugged cold weather. And then as far as the Denver Broncos go, do I think they need to draft a quarterback? I don't think they need to. I think it would be a smart decision, but just judging off of Elway's kind of history, trading up for Paxton Lynch, that's not worked out. They drafted Chad Kelly. He's been injured. He's not. I don't even think they're going to give him a chance. They drafted Trevor Siemian. He hasn't developed. He drafted Brock Osweiler. I mean, a guy that's So, are you really going to spend the 5th overall draft pick on another quarterback when you just brought in Case Keenum? That's a question that John Elway is going to kind of have to answer. If I was a Bronco fan, I would feel more comfortable going best player available. Because now with the Jets trading up to 3, it's all going to be bumped down. Like the best players are going to be bumped down a slot. And, go get yourself like a Luke Falk maybe in round 3 or a Mason Rudolph in round 2. Mm-hmm. I would play the safer route, because you don't need a quarterback today. You don't need one. Will it be nice? Yeah. But can you trust him? I don't know.
I think the Bronco fans should be upset, because – this is an unpopular opinion, but I think that they should draft Baker or J.A. We like Baker more than J.A. I'm not a Keenum believer, and I'm disappointed Denver didn't even pick up McCarron, because we don't know with McCarron. I think McCarron could be special, and I look at Keenum, he's so capped in his abilities, He was with the Rams. He did have a nice system in Minnesota to kind of work with, but Denver's always like, our defense is amazing, and we don't need a quarterback to carry us. They just can't mess it up. And I just can't imagine, if you have Case Keenum, it's hard to win a Super Bowl with that guy. It just really is, And
they were close.
The past history does kind of, the past history of the Denver Broncos, that definitely will factor into their decision, though, as well. And Bradley Chubb, I think, will be the pick. Von Miller, Brad Chubb, just getting so great on that side of the football. So, JC, I want to thank you so much for coming on the channel, man, giving us great content. And I had a really good time.
Thanks, man. Always a pleasure.